Welcome to Feisty Chess. I wanted to show you a quick game, a very quick game that I played recently in a tournament that's very instructive. So it's a tough one for me to show, but let's get into it. I was playing black against a master in a tournament. So the first two rounds I'd played very well, and I'd beaten two relatively strong players, and I was riding high on that. And I'm up against a master, and that always feels a little bit freeing because no one expects you to win, right? A draw would feel great against a master, at least at my level. I'm about 1900. So he plays e4, I play e5, and we go into the normal channels here with knight f3, knight c6. And there's a lot of different openings that can arise from this, but most strong players, more often than not, will play the Ruy Lopez against you. They'll play bishop b5, the Spanish system. And I've struggled against this my whole chess career. I hate the Spanish torture. I've tried everything against it. Okay, I used to play a6 and then go into the closed Ruy Lopez with knight f6 and bishop e7. I got tired of that kind of closed system, and then I started playing the open system where you take on e4 with that knight. I maybe should have stuck with that. That was pretty good, but I kept switching because I kept wanted to find new tricks that were simple. I mean, just get white out of their comfort zone. I tried the bird. I'd give the Ruy Lopez the bird with knight d4, and then there's trades on d4, and it's a very different kind of game. What I've tried recently, and one that I've wanted to learn for a long time, is the f5, the Schliemann defense, or the Jaenish gambit. I've heard it called both. There's some disagreement about that, but it's not really a gambit because it's not really in white's interest to take here. It is very similar to the Vienna game and the Vienna gambit, which I play as white. It's just that there's this bishop b5 move inserted and you're down a tempo. So it's fun. There's also, it's kind of similar to the Latvian gambit, which would be black playing this at move 2, which is not, I don't know. I can't speak for the soundness of this, but I know the Schliemann has a much better reputation here. So I'm trying it out. I had actually come off my last tournament where I'd beaten an expert, very exciting game for me, who played d3, which is a humbler approach. But Valery Kosokin, the master I'm playing at this past tournament, he played knight to c3, which I know is the best move. And I know generally a few moves in what I need to do against this. But I don't know it as well as I should, and that's one of the main lessons here. So anyway, I take, and there's a recapture. So now I've got, this is one of the points of the Jaenish gambit is you're going to have both center pawns, and you're also trying to open this f file easily enough, and you've got that accomplished, because you want to castle over here and have a rook on f8 looking down that open file. So I knew my next move was knight f6, and then Valery took, and I know I need to take with the queen. And black's okay here. The next move I also anticipated is castles. And then I played a move which I saw recommended in a YouTube video, but didn't really look into it too much. And it looked like the most aggressive move in the position, bishop to c5. And what I like about this is it sets a trap. Traps are fun. So the trap is, it looks like white can win a pawn here. Remove the defender of e5, and after I recapture, you don't even need to start with rook e1. You can just play knight here, and it looks like black can't recapture because rook e1 will pin and win the queen, right? But there's tactics, and black actually can recapture, and now black has to try to win this queen, or he's just down a piece. Now I want you to find a really good move for black here, so pause your video and see if you can get out of this pickle. Okay, so here it comes. The move is bishop takes f2 check, and you have to take the bishop. You just move your king somewhere. I'm going to take that rook and be up in exchange. So you take the bishop. Okay, so now material is equal. My queen is still pinned, but the point is I can castle with check. Now the king has to go back. And now my queen is free to roam. Queen f6 is a good move here, threatening on f2. Black is in the driver's seat here, and I would be happy, and I've won some games online from this position because people tend to fall into this trap. But I'm playing a master in an over-the-board tournament, and he finds a better move. And actually, this is the one of the main moves, and if I studied this better, I would know this. But he plays queen e2, and this puts me in a tight spot. The first move I considered was knight d4, this bird idea, knight d4, and that's a forcing. I mean, you're attacking three of White's pieces, so it's kind of a forced response he has to take. But this pawn is pinned. I have to take with the bishop. And now he can kick away my bishop and play d4. And this pawn is pinned, and I can't defend it. I have to just kind of castle here and hope for the best. And I'm going to lose that pawn. And it doesn't look like I have any compensation for it because I'm just as undeveloped as White on the queen side. Worse, actually. I'm behind in development here, and I'm going to be down a pawn. So that looks like a disaster. So I kind of ruled that out. And I thought maybe I should castle. Castling right away, but this is a big problem, and this is one of the weaknesses of that f7, f5 move, is you can probably see something really winning on the spot for White here. One of the points of queen e2 is queen c4 check. I have to get out of the check, and however I do, my bishop is a goner next move. So I'm going to be down a piece if I castle. So I thought, okay, I just need to defend this bishop first. And I played d6, solidifying my center and defending my bishop. And in the d3 lines instead of the knight c3, this is the idea with the Jaenish, and this works quite well to preserve that bishop and to get you ready to castle. But there's a problem here. So let me flip the board. Find a really strong move for White. You should be able to find a move that wins you the game. Okay, I'm going to show the move here. I'm going to flip it back to black. My opponent found it pretty quickly. d4. Okay, so the key idea here is pins. I can't take with the pawn because that's been pinned for the last couple moves. I can't take with the knight either because that is now pinned because I've played d6. So this is a real problem. I can't take here because knight takes, and I can't recapture that knight with either piece. Down a piece. If I go back to bishop b6, well, now this knight pin is really deadly because he's going to take my knight next move. I can try this, saying I'm going to capture your bishop if you capture my knight, but he can just slide the bishop back. And now there's no b5 because my bishop is in the way. And he'll just get my knight next move. I could castle, he'll just take my knight. Probably bishop d7 is better. I might get a pawn, but I'm lost, right? I could try to be a little trickier and play bishop to b4 here, but then Valerie would find c3 or a3 would do the job here. Let's say c3, it doesn't really matter. The bishop comes back here. And now he just can force the bishop back to b6. And so the same thing comes out. I can kick that bishop, but I can't play b5 to save my knight. So I took a good long look at this position, and I thought it's a nice day out. I got a cousin in town. I can go play disc golf with him. My opponent was actually standing up looking at another game. I stood up, tipped over my king, and let him know I'm resigning. So I resigned after 9 moves. That's a tough position to be in, but I did enjoy the disc golf. And this is actually the last. I didn't play the second day of the tournament because I came down with some kind of bug, and that kind of sucked. But anyway, it was a pretty good tournament all told. I got 2 good wins and 1 tough loss here, but it didn't take long, and it was at least against a master. But the 2 big lessons here, are when you play a sharp opening like the Jaenish Gambit, you should know the key lines. And if you don't, you should be prepared to spend the time you need to spend at the board to figure this stuff out and do the calculation, the hard work of that. So you either got to do the hard work in your prep or be willing to do it over the board. And I was somewhat prepped here, but I was only prepped for this key idea, not with this trappy idea here with bishop takes c6 and then knight takes e5. And then my bishop on this diagonal really shines. But I didn't know what to do against the better move in this position. And actually probably the best move here is just bishop to, let's see what the computer says. Yeah, bishop to b6, right? So we're giving up a pawn, but we're making, we have two defenders on this pawn, and this knight isn't pinned anymore. So we're actually making black give up the bishop pair and give us some compensation for this, right? Now he can take with the knight, but now I can just castle. And he could take with the queen as well and force the queens off the board. But still I can castle, and I'm a little bit up in development. I've got the bishop pair, right? I've got some compensation. This is not a favorable position for black at all. But there's some hope for counterplay, and I've got a slight lead in development in the bishop pair. My rooks are going to become more active more quickly. So that's the best I could hope for. And bishop c5 is not the way to play. I should have known bishop e2, a closed Ruy-Lopez kind of idea, where I've now after, say, queen e2, my pawn isn't pinned, and I can play, say, d6, although that's not very good here because of the knight being pinned. But yeah, this allows me to castle, and then if he wants to take, he has to give up the bishop pair, right? He has to at least give that up. Actually, that's no good if I take this way. See, I should know this stuff. Black actually has a slight pull here. Now my bishops become real forces, I suppose. So, okay. But anyway, learning the Schliemann is going to be tough, but I should know some of these key lines. And the second lesson is that when you get to a point in your game, and this always happens, the first critical moment in any game when you should devote some time to thinking is when your opponent plays a move that you didn't prepare for, right? Now you're not just, playing your book moves anymore. You're actually playing chess. And now is the time where you need to get your first big think in. And if I had given a big think, I might have found bishop b6 to actually stay in the game here. It's a tough psychological adjustment to realize, hey, I'm actually quite a bit worse here. Like this computer says I'm down a pawn because it knows I'm losing a pawn, and I won't have too much in the way of compensation. But what I did is I turned that into down a piece, basically. You see how after d6 the evaluation goes crazy, and white has the piece and the compensation here, 3.7. So two big lessons, right? Know your lines if you're playing a sharp opening, and take the time to think when you're at that point in every game where you're out of book. And that's where it's really critical to find that best move. So bishop b6 would have kept me at least in the game. That shores up my bishop, gives me the chance to castle next move. So yeah, anyway, tough lessons here. But I love the Schliemann, the Jaenish. I plan to keep playing it and learning it, and sometimes this is the best way to learn, the school of hard knocks. So anyway, stay feisty, folks. See you next time.